Gematria. Gematrior, gematria. Plural gematros, or gematriot. Gematriot is the practice of assigning a numerical value to a name, word, or phrase by reading it as a number, or sometimes by using an alphanumeric cipher. The letters of the alphabets involved have standard numerical values, but a word can yield several values if a cipher is used. An image showing corresponding Phoenician letters and numbers. Table of correspondences from Carl Fahlman's Das Buch der Schrift, showing glyph variants for Phoenician letters and numbers. According to Aristotle, isopsephy, based on the Milesian numbering of the Greek alphabet developed in the Greek city of Miletus, was part of the Pythagorean tradition, which originated in the 6th century BCE. The first evidence of use of Hebrew letters as numbers dates to 7 and 8 BCE. Gematria is still used in Jewish culture. Similar systems have been used in other languages and cultures, derived from or inspired by either Greek isopsephy or Hebrew gematria, and include Arabic abjad numerals and English gematria. The most common form of Hebrew gematria is used in the Talmud and Midrash. And elaborately by many post-Talmudic commentators, it involves reading words and sentences as numbers and assigning numerical instead of phonetic values to each letter of the Hebrew alphabet. When read as numbers, they can be compared and contrasted with other words or phrases. Cf. the Hebrew proverb, "Ichnas yain yatzah sod, ichnas yain yatzah sod, lit wine entered secret without, i.e. a thing of veritas." The geometric value of yain is 70. U equals 10, U equals 10, Ad equals 50. And this is also the geometric value of sod. Sacred 60. Very Jewish sources, the term can also refer to other forms of calculation or letter manipulation, for example at Bash. The first ever at Bash. Classical scholars agree that the Hebrew word gematria derives from the Greek geometria, geometry, though some scholars believe it derives from grammateia, knowledge of writing. It is likely that both Greek words had an influence on the formation of the Hebrew word. Some hold it to derive from the order of the Greek alphabet, gamma being the third letter of the Greek alphabet, gematria. The word has been extant in English since at least the 17th century from translations of works by Giovanni Pico della Mirandola. It is largely used in Jewish texts, notably those associated with the Kabbalah. Neither the concept nor the term appears in the Hebrew Bible itself. History. Further information, numbers in Egyptian mythology, and biblical numerology. The first documented use of gematria is from an Assyrian inscription dating to the 8th century BCE, commissioned by Sargon II. In this inscription, Sargon II states, "The king built the wall of Khorsabad 1623 cubits long to correspond with the numerical value of his name." The practice of using alphabetic letters to represent numbers developed in the Greek city of Miletus, and is thus known as the Milesian system. Early examples include vase graffiti dating to the 6th century BCE. Aristotle wrote that the Pythagorean tradition, founded in the 6th century BCE by Pythagoras of Samos, practiced isopsephy. The Greek predecessor of gematria, Pythagoras, was a contemporary of the philosophers Anaximander and Anaximenes, and the historian Hecataeus, all of whom lived in Miletus, across the sea from Samos. The Milesian system was in common use by the reign of Alexander the Great, 333 CE, and was adopted by other cultures during the subsequent Hellenistic period. It was officially adopted in Egypt during the reign of Ptolemy II Philadelphus, ruled 424-20 CE, in a Hellenistic period in 70 BCE. In 78 BCE, scholars have identified gematria in the Hebrew Bible, the canon of which was fixed during the Hasmonean dynasty, 1st BCE to 37 BCE. though some scholars argue it was not fixed until the 2nd century CE or even later. The Hasmonean king of Judea, Alexander Jannaeus, had coins inscribed in Aramaic with the Phoenician alphabet, marking the 20th and 25th years of his reign using the letters K and K, the Malkalk Sendul Shinat Ka, and the Malkalk Sendul Shinat Ka.
Some ancient texts may preserve very early usage of this number system, but no surviving written documents exist, and some scholars believe these texts were passed down orally and during the early stages before the Bar Kokhba rebellion were never written.
Gematria is not known to be found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, a vast body of text from 100 BCE, 100 CE, or in any of the documents found from the Bar Kokhba revolt circa 150 CE. According to Proclus in his commentary on the Timaeus of Plato, written in the 5th century, the author, Theodorus, assayers from a century earlier interpreted the word soul, psyche, based on gematria, and an inspection of the graphical aspects of the letters that make up the word. According to Proclus, Theodorus learned these methods from the writings of Numenius of Apamea and Amelius. Proclus rejects these methods by appealing to the arguments against them put forth by the Neoplatonic philosopher Iamblichus. The first argument was that some letters have the same numerical value, but opposite meaning. His second argument was that the form of letters changes over the years, and so that graphical qualities cannot hold any deeper meaning. Finally, he puts forth the third argument, that when one uses all sorts of methods, as addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, and even ratios, the infinite ways in which these can be combined allow virtually any number to be produced to suit any purpose. Propose that at least 2 cases of gematria appear in the New Testament. According to one theory, the reference to the miraculous catch of 153 fish in John 21:11 is an application of gematria derived from the name of the spring called Eglem in Ezekiel 47:10. Of this gematria in John 21:11 has been connected to one of the Dead Sea Scrolls, namely 4Q252, which also applies the same gematria 153 derived from Ezekiel 47 to state that Noah arrived at Mount Ararat on the 153rd day after the beginning of the flood. Some historians see gematria behind the reference to the number of the name of the beast in Revelation as 666, which corresponds to the numerical value of the Hebrew transliteration of the Greek name Neron Caesar, referring to the 1st century Roman emperor who persecuted the early Christians. Another possible influence on the use of 666 in Revelation goes back to reference to Solomon's intake of 666 talents of gold in 1 Kings 10:14. Several appearances in various Christian and Jewish texts written in the 1st centuries of the Common Era. One appearance of gematria in the early Christian period is in the Epistle of Barnabas 967, which dates to sometime between 70 and 32 CE. There, the 318 servants of Abraham in Genesis 14:14 is used to indicate that Abraham looked forward to the coming of Jesus, and the numerical value of some of the letters in the Greek name for Jesus and the representing a symbol for the cross also equaled 33 unteent.
Another example is a Christian interpolation in the Sibylline oracles with a symbolic significance of the value of 88.8. To the numerical value of Isis, the Latinized rendering of the Greek version of Jesus' name is asserted. Irenaeus also heavily criticized the interpretation of letters by the Gnostic Marcus because of their association with Gnosticism, and the criticisms of Irenaeus and Hippolytus of Rome and Epiphanius of Salamis. This form of interpretation never became popular in Christianity, though it does appear in at least some texts. Another two examples can be found in 3 Baruch, a text that may have either been composed by a Jew or a Christian sometime between the 1st and 3rd centuries. In the first example, a snake is stated to consume a cubit of ocean every day, but is unable to ever finish consuming it, because the oceans are also refilled by 360 rivers. The number 360 is given because the numerical value of the Greek word for snake, the raiku, when transliterated to Hebrew, narco, is 3 decimals. In a second example, the number of giants stated to have died during the deluge is 409,000. The Greek word for deluge, kataklysmos, has a numerical value of 409 when transliterated in Hebrew characters, thus leading the author of 3 Baruch to use it for the number of perished giants. Gematria is often used in rabbinic literature. One example is that the numerical value of the Satan, Hasatan, in Hebrew is 3064, and so it was said that the Satan had authority to prosecute Israel for 3064 days before his reign ended on the Day of Atonement, an idea which appears in Yoma 20 and Peskita 7. Yoma 20 states, Rami Bar Hama said, the numerological value of the letters that constitute the word Hasatan is 364. Has a value of 5, Sin has a value of 300, Tet has a value of 9, Nun has a value of 50, 364 days of the solar year, which is 365 days long, Satan has license to prosecute. Genesis 14:14 states that Abraham took 318 of his servants to help him rescue some of his kinsmen, which was taken in Peskita 70b to be a reference to Eleazar, whose name has a numerical value of 318. Value of the letters of the Islamic Basmala, i.e. the phrase Bismillah al-Rahman al-Rahim, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, according to the standard of Jani's system of numerology, is 786. This number has therefore acquired a significance in folk Islam and Near Eastern folk magic, and also appears in many instances of pop culture, such as its appearance in 2016 song 786, All Is War by the band Fundamental. The combination of reciting the Basmala 786 times in sequence is recorded in Albani Sinderman, 2006, reports that a contemporary spiritual healer from Syria recommends the recitation of the Basmala 786 times over a cup of water, which is then to be ingested as medicine.